You know, you are often the first professional who's really trained in sexual assault dynamics that meets face to face with a victim if an advocate hasn't arrived or law enforcement hasn't been contacted. What did you initially expect when you were told, you know, you're going to start meeting with sexual assault victims in the emergency room? What did you initially expect, and what have you learned over time to expect?
I can kind of start because I've been doing this the longest, and so I think it's really interesting how we've evolved. When we started doing it in 1989, we were not collecting DNA. We were really just getting swabs from 3 orifices and goodbye. It was kind of how the exams went. And the police were very emphatic, do not interview the victim. We don't want you asking them any questions because they might say something different. And it has now evolved to where the prosecutors are saying constantly, ask the questions, get as much detail as possible. You can't ask too much. Let us deal with the end result of it. So I've seen a dramatic shift in how involved we are in the obtaining the information of the assault, which is really important because if we don't get the details of the assault, we can't get the evidence that we need to collect.
And let's just put it out there, if you're going by stereotypical things, you think it's going to be a person presenting a certain way and they're going to come in and they're all going to be just crying and devastated, and it's going to be a stranger rape where they just didn't even know this person and they were just innocently minding their own business, and you learn really, really quickly that that is not the way it is, and that's okay. That part, as we discussed, I think we'd all, you know, there's no set normal. It's all normal, and everybody's going to respond a certain way. And so being prepared and open for that, and to not go in there with any kind of preconceived ideas about things, I think is very, very helpful.
Yeah, the nurses that I train, I always let them know, everyone gets into sexual assault examination into that field for different purposes. Their own passions behind it, or their own need to want to do that is different for everyone. I always have to say, there is no normal. There is no way that I can train you to what you're going to walk into. You may have an idea in your head of what you think you're going to do. That's wrong. Because every room you walk into is going to be different. I cannot train you in black and white. I will give you the knowledge and the information that you need to do your job, but every patient's experience and how they deal with it, you need to respond by being trauma informed and do trauma informed care on how to respond. But every individual is going to respond differently to the trauma that she has been through. You have to go there with a compassionate heart and know that this is, regardless of what story there is, regardless of what she says happened or how she's acting or how she responds, something happened to her that shouldn't have happened to her, and she's reaching out for our help. So you have to go with that mindset of, I am here to help this person in their time of need, regardless of what the details of the story are or how she is reacting, because everyone's going to react and have different details to the trauma that they've been through.
Most of our patients, they come in from a stranger situation, domestic violence, human trafficking, acquaintance situations, or they just met this person or whatever. So you've got all these different experiences that people have had, and as those experiences happen, a person is likely to respond a variety of different ways, as we've discussed. Freeze, fight, flight, submit, depending. So you have those folks that freeze up. There is tonic immobility. They have no ability to fight back, scream, yell, cry. They're just completely frozen with fear. Then you have your patient that tried to run away, tried to get away. You have your patient that went primal and sometimes did more damage to the perpetrator than what they had done to them. Doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. And then you have your patients that report submitting and complying. Not that that is consensual or permission, but that is minimizing the amount of damage that's getting ready to happen in a form of survival. So I a lot of times have no idea what that person has experienced, and I don't need to know in that moment. What I want to know is, what has that person revealed to the preliminary staff? What has that experience been like? What kind of trauma has their body experienced? And what is their affect right now? And sometimes I don't, they say, well, they're eating a Big Mac. Or sometimes they're in a fetal position covered under 10 blankets and sucking their thumb and they can't speak to anyone. So I like to kind of know what I'm getting ready to walk into. Ultimately, I'll be able to apply my trauma-informed care techniques wherever that person is, and I make no judgment, like you mentioned, based on the trauma response. The person might be trying to normalize and ground themselves, and the person might be in complete submission mode and have an inability to even communicate. So it just kind of depends on where they are in that cascade of hormones that their body has just received and how those are manifesting.
And I think it's making that known to the patient too, because we'll do a lot of education among ourselves and our peers, but sometimes they'll even come in thinking that they should be responding a certain way. They'll be like, I don't even know why I'm laughing about this. This isn't funny, or I don't know why I'm doing this. So just to be able to validate for them, like, that's okay. Like, this is normal. This, whatever reaction you're having is your normal. It's how your body is responding. It's what you needed to go, how you needed to survive. What you did was what you needed to survive. And just, I think reassuring them of that, and then that just helps put them at ease. Like, okay, like, they're not here judging me for how I'm acting. And I think we all do that on a much smaller scale. I mean, take away this, everyone responds to pain and hurt and any type of trauma different. Some of us can hold it all in really well, and we, from the outside, you never know that anything really bad happened. Some of those are like, you can read it on our face and our tears, and some, say, I laugh when people get hurt. I don't know why. It's because I can't handle that trauma. So, I mean, if you take it back to like what's normal on any other given day, we shouldn't be surprised that there's not one set stereotypical way that they're going to respond.
And along with that patient education, not only how they're responding to us, but how they responded in the moment. Mm-hmm. That education I have to give to patients a lot. A lot of patients will think, I didn't fight back, so no one's going to believe me. I just froze, or I was submissive. No one's going to believe me, or it was okay because I didn't fight back. No, if you did not give consent, you did not give consent. And I have to do a lot of education with them on that. Not only the response they have with us, but the response they had in the moment of trauma. Mm-hmm. Because I have to explain them that everyone responds differently, and that's a total normal physiological response that your body goes through to freeze or be submissive or fight back. And
that overrides higher level critical thought analysis of the situation.
So, and patients don't know that. And you have to give that information to them and educate them that, because a lot of them think that they don't have a fighting chance because they didn't fight back. And everyone responds differently.
Well, it's very rare that you have a victim that comes in that isn't self-blaming.
Oh, in every aspect.
Everything.
In every aspect of what happened.
And so they need to understand that, that the blame, they're not the ones to carry the blame. The other thing I think is important when you're talking about histories and narratives and things is that you really have to keep an open mind. It's really easy to be judgmental, and I see that a lot in early stages with newer nurses, that they think that they have to make a decision whether they believe the victim or not. And I always share with them the cases that, no matter how hard we try not to be judgmental, in the back of our mind there's that little, boy, this is really a bizarre story, what's something fun. Those are the ones that end up being the most factual sometimes.
Yeah.
I talk about going to court. Those are the ones that I'll get the subpoena. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember this case. This was the weirdest story. So you can't make that determination during the interview. You've got to be open to anything. And you need to convey that to the patient, that no matter what they tell you, it doesn't shock you, it doesn't surprise you. The fact is the fact as they are telling you. And that's really hard for new nurses to keep that concept going.
Yeah. It's also really important why it's a best practice that victims should be able to come forward and have the exam completed, have the narrative done before they've decided whether or not they want to report to law enforcement. They may already know, but they may not. Why is it so important then that they come forward and meet with a sexual assault nurse examiner and go ahead and start to have that narrative and evidence collected?
I think a lot of it is we have the education to provide them the statutes for wherever that jurisdiction, wherever it happened to occur, so that they understand their rights and the services that are available to them in those areas for healing and recovery, whatever that looks like. We put it all out on the table, and then once we've explained all those things based on where it happened, what occurred, then they will be able to pick and choose what they feel is important for their healing and recovery.
And I think it's such a marriage between medical and forensic.
True.
Like, it's really hard to kind of just differentiate, you know, so much of what happened to them, there are a lot of medical implications, and wanting to just make sure that we're not getting just blurred by all this crime and this evidence, and not realizing, like, we just medically first, like, let's make sure you're okay, and that let's address those things. So I think just being able to present that, and then we take a lot of pride in how much education we get in getting that information. And, you know, I think we all start at different ways, but being able to just sit down and not be quite as intimidating as maybe other, not saying that all law enforcement are, and they're great and we've come a long way too, but sometimes just having just a little less intimidating approach of, you know, I'm just coming in, sitting down, and be like, you know, when you feel comfortable, tell me what you want to tell me, and start where you want to start. And I'm not gonna go in with it has to be in this perfect little package, all nice and chronological, but just tell me and I'll go from there. And then, yes, then having all that information that you can give them options, so they don't feel like this is an all or nothing type decision.
A lot of the nurses think that, you know, we're doing this so that when they get ready to go to court, we'll have all of that. It's really not about going to court. I mean, I treat every case as it might, because you don't want to not do something in case. The greater majority of cases never get that far. It's about doing what's right for the patient. And they don't have the education to understand, one, what their rights are, that they have a right to have a kit done without reporting to police. But overall, as you said, the medical piece of it, the forensic piece, we're there to help them, guide them in doing what's best for them. And understanding the repercussions if they do or they don't do a kit. That really all becomes their right, and that's really what we need to be able to relay to them and help them understand. And for that, you need to have a basic understanding of the laws as well as the medical piece of it.